They're stealing your life force. This is how to protect your energy. Energy flows where attention goes. This timeless truth reminds us that every day we're either nourishing our spirit or unknowingly draining it. In a world full of distractions, emotional vampires, and psychological manipulation, it's easy to give away our most precious resource, our life force, without even realizing it. That's why, in today's video on spiritual wisdom, we dive deep into how to protect your energy, drawing from the profound insights of Carl Jung. What subtle forces are stealing your vitality? And more importantly, how can you reclaim your power? If this resonates with you, drop a comment below. I protect my energy daily. Let's start this journey of conscious living together. 1. True power lies in silence and withdrawal. Power doesn't come from chasing, reacting, or over-explaining. It comes from restraint, knowing when to be silent, when to pull back, and when to stop giving your energy away to those who have come to expect it without gratitude. The most commanding presence in any room is often the one that speaks the least, not because they lack something to say, but because their silence says everything. When you withdraw your energy with intention, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity, people feel it. They may not understand it at first, but they feel the absence, and that absence begins to speak louder than your presence ever did. This is the kind of spiritual wisdom many never learn, that your life force is not infinite, and every unnecessary reaction, every forced explanation, drains it drop by drop. When you always show up, always reply, always fix, people start assuming your energy is free. They stop valuing your presence because it's always available. But when you step back, not with anger, but with grace, you interrupt the pattern. You let the silence do the teaching. You show others that your attention is earned, not assumed. And in doing so, you begin to restore the sacredness of your own spirit. Strategic silence is not a form of manipulation. It's an act of self-respect. You're not ignoring anyone. You're honoring yourself. You're recognizing when conversations drain more than they heal, when presence becomes a performance, when connection becomes currency. You're refusing to participate in dynamics that leave you depleted and unseen. And in this refusal, you reclaim your power. Pulling back your energy doesn't mean you've stopped caring. It means you've started caring about yourself just as much. The balance shifts the moment you choose peace over proving. It shifts when you no longer offer explanations to those committed to misunderstanding you. And when you stop overgiving, the ones who truly value your light will step forward not because you demanded it, but because your absence called them to awareness. You teach people how to treat you by the energy you allow and the boundaries you enforce. If they can't feel your silence, they never heard your words. And if your withdrawal offends them more than your exhaustion ever did, that tells you everything. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It's sacred. Your aura is not a public utility. It is a sanctuary. And only those who enter with reverence should be allowed to stay. Letting go of the need to respond to everything gives you space to breathe, to heal, and to remember who you are. In that space, your true essence emerges unshaken, unbothered, and deeply grounded in truth. This is where your real power begins. In silence, in the distance, in the unapologetic decision to choose yourself. Have you ever experienced the power of silence and pulling back your energy? If so, share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear how it shifted your relationships or inner peace. If not, comment, "I will reclaim my power," to begin this quiet yet profound journey within. 2. Constant availability destroys self-respect. When you're always available, something sacred begins to dissolve your self-respect. The more accessible you are, the more people unconsciously begin to expect your presence, not appreciate it. Your kindness turns into convenience. Your generosity becomes an invisible habit. They no longer feel grateful for your time. They assume it's theirs by default. And in that quiet erosion, your worth starts to dim. Not because it disappears, but because you're giving it away in fragments every time you say yes, when your soul whispers no. You may believe that always saying yes makes you compassionate or loving. But when that yes is rooted in fear, guilt, or the need to be accepted, it becomes a form of spiritual self-abandonment. This is not a real connection. It's performance. It's erasing your truth for the comfort of others. Saying yes when you mean no is not kindness. It's self-betrayal. It's how you lose your voice, your energy, your presence, and eventually, your identity. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But if your energy is constantly being scattered into other people's needs, demands, and dramas, how can you hear your own truth? How can you honor your inner path when your life is lived in reaction to everyone else's urgency? Constant availability creates spiritual noise. It silences your intuition. It floods your nervous system with other people's chaos while starving your own soul of peace. Spiritual awakening begins the moment you realize your presence is sacred, not public property. Your life force is not a buffet for others to consume. You are not here to constantly prove your worth through sacrifice. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's a divine act of remembrance, of reclaiming your right to exist in fullness without apology. The most powerful people don't chase, don't explain, and don't overextend. They honor the rhythm of their own being. They speak through presence, not performance. When you stop being so accessible, the dynamics shift. People who took you for granted begin to notice your absence. Those who relied on your constant support begin to reflect on their own imbalance. But most importantly, you begin to return to yourself, to your breath, your stillness, your truth. You start living aligned, not drained, rooted, not rushed, free, not fragmented. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom. Not just knowing when to say yes, but having the courage to say no. Not just giving love, but embodying it for yourself. Not just showing up for the world, but remembering you belong to yourself first. And in that sacred remembering, your soul finally breathes. If this message speaks to your soul, consider subscribing and tapping the notification bell. Your journey towards self-respect and energetic alignment deepens with every step you take. 3. You become the role others want, not your true self. Most people aren't loved for who they truly are. They're loved for the role they play in other people's lives. Over time, others don't connect with your soul, but with your emotional patterns. The comforting smile you offer, even when you're tired. The silence you keep to avoid conflict. The way you overextend yourself just to stay needed. Carl Jung called this the persona, a mask you wear to be accepted, to feel useful, to belong. But the longer you wear it, the more your true self is buried beneath it. And one day, without even realizing it, you forget who you are beneath all the roles. You become the caretaker, the pleaser, the achiever. You say yes to things your heart silently resists. You dim your light in rooms that never celebrated your fire. You show up not as yourself, but as a filtered version, carefully shaped to be digestible to others. And in that quiet, subtle sacrifice, you trade authenticity for approval. Slowly, your life becomes a performance, not a truth. The more you conform to the expectations of others, the more your energy is drained. You give away your life force just to be perceived as lovable. It's not your fault. The world teaches us to be useful, not to be real. From childhood, you're conditioned to gain approval by adjusting your behavior. You're rewarded for being obedient, not honest. Praised for being helpful, not authentic. And so, you adapt. You survive, but you don't thrive. Your spirit begins to whisper that something's missing, but the noise of your persona is too loud to hear it. Sarah was one of those people. She had the career, the family, the friendships. Yet every night, she felt hollow. She realized that every version of herself had been molded by what others needed, never by what she truly wanted. With time and inner work, she confronted the truth. She had abandoned herself in exchange for being liked. That moment was her awakening. She stopped asking, "What do they expect from me?" and started asking, "What do I expect from myself?" She began reclaiming her energy not by fighting others, but by finally choosing herself. When you over-identify with the persona, you unconsciously teach others to love your mask instead of your soul. This is why so many relationships feel unfulfilling. You're not being seen, only performed. And until you break free, your energy will always be on loan to people who never truly valued the real you. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That means learning to exist without needing to be needed. It means pulling back your energy from roles that no longer fit. It means risking disapproval to protect your truth. Because nothing drains your life force more than performing someone else's idea of who you should be. Protecting your energy is not just about avoiding toxic people. It's about unmasking yourself. It's about daring to be disliked if it means finally being real. It's about returning home to your own essence after years of exile. And when you do, you'll notice something extraordinary. The people who are only attached to your performance will fade, but those who see and honor your soul will rise. Are you ready to stop performing and start being your true self? If so, comment below. I choose authenticity to affirm your commitment. Let this be the first step back to you. 4. Reactivity is a leak in your power. Every time you overreact emotionally, a part of your power escapes you. It doesn't seem like much at first, a defensive comment here, a need to explain yourself there. But slowly, piece by piece, you're leaking energy. Not just physical energy, but something deeper, your spiritual life force. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This insight reminds us that triggers are not enemies, they are teachers. Yet most people don't pause to learn. They collapse into the trigger, reacting from old wounds instead of observing with awareness. And that's where true power is lost. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that your energy is your responsibility. When you allow someone's words to control your mood, or when you feel the urge to justify your value to someone who has no intention of seeing it, you give away more than just time. You surrender sovereignty. The more you explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, the more you betray your own inner knowing. You don't need to narrate your worth to someone whose ears are closed. You don't need to argue your vision with those who lack the eyes to see it. Being reactive is like handing someone else the remote to your nervous system. You think you're defending yourself, but you're actually surrendering control. You're saying, "Here, take my calm, take my focus, take my strength." And when this becomes a habit, you start to feel anxious, depleted, and disoriented, not because something is wrong with you, but because you've spent your energy in all the wrong places. People often confuse silence with weakness, but in truth, silence can be the most powerful response. The ones who master energy don't need to shout. Their presence speaks for them. They walk into a room and shift it, not because they try to dominate, but because they've stopped leaking. They've stopped reacting. They've learned how to hold their power instead of throwing it away in moments of emotional chaos. When you embody spiritual wisdom, you become unshakable not by resisting the world, but by no longer letting it decide who you are. You begin to choose your battles. You no longer show up to every argument you're invited to. You no longer defend yourself to people who are looking for conflict, not understanding. You become intentional, and that intention becomes your shield. The energy you once scattered now returns to you. It nourishes your purpose, sharpens your clarity, and deepens your peace. Triggers no longer rule you. They guide you. Reactions no longer define you. Responses born from presence and awareness become your signature. Protecting your energy is not a selfish act. It's a sacred one. It is the act of remembering that your light was never meant to be dimmed by noise, provocation, or misunderstanding. It was meant to lead. And leaders don't waste their power on chaos. They rise above it, quietly, gracefully, completely. Do you feel your energy returning as you stop reacting? If this message resonates, comment below. I choose power over reaction. Let it be your bold affirmation and your turning point. 5. Projection is not love. It's control. Many people don't love you. They love the version of you that makes them feel safe, admired, or in control. The moment you stop smiling on cue, saying yes when your spirit says no, or being smaller to fit into their comfort, you start to see the truth. Their affection wasn't rooted in love. It was a projection. They didn't love you. They loved the idea of you. And when that idea is threatened, they react. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've broken the script they wrote without your consent. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Projection is one of the most unconscious forms of control. When someone projects, they're not seeing you as you are. They're seeing you through the lens of their wounds, needs, and expectations. You become their mirror, not their companion. And as long as you reflect what they want to see, things feel harmonious. But step out of that reflection. Express your boundaries, your needs, your truths, and you'll see how quickly the illusion shatters. This happens all the time in daily life. A woman known for her gentleness finally asserts herself in a relationship and is instantly labeled too emotional or difficult. A son who's always lived up to his family's expectations decides to follow his own path and suddenly becomes the ungrateful one. A friend who always listens but rarely shares their own pain finally opens up and is met with discomfort, avoidance, or silence. These are not signs that you're broken. They are signs that you've stepped out of someone's fantasy and they're struggling to cope with reality. But here's the deeper truth. Your authenticity will always cost you fake connections. It will agitate those who only knew how to relate to a version of you that served their ego. And that is okay, because what you lose in approval, you gain in freedom. Your spiritual wisdom deepens every time you choose presence over performance, truth over role-playing, and connection over control. Carl Jung believed that true wholeness comes from integrating the shadow, the unseen, misunderstood, and rejected parts of ourselves. When you honor your full self, you break free from being a character in someone else's narrative. You stop being easy to manage and start being deeply real. And yes, that will unsettle some people. But it will also attract those who are capable of genuine love, that sees you, evolves with you, and doesn't disappear the moment you step out of line. The more self-aware you become, the more you'll recognize projection for what it is, a quiet thief of your life force. It doesn't scream, it doesn't rage, it whispers, "Don't change. Stay who I need you to be." And in that whisper lies the slow erosion of your power. But the moment you choose to listen to your soul instead of their script, you begin the sacred act of reclaiming your energy, not through anger, but through alignment. If this message resonates with you, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. You deserve real love, not control. Type in the comments, "I deserve to be loved for who I truly am." 6. Sacred isolation reveals your authentic self. When the world constantly demands your attention, it's easy to forget the sound of your own voice. In a society that rewards constant connection and performance, you slowly begin to drift from your core. Sacred isolation becomes not an escape, but a return to the self that existed before the masks, before the expectations, before the noise. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of becoming whole by uniting all parts of yourself, even the ones you've hidden or forgotten. And that journey cannot begin in chaos. It begins in silence. Solitude is not rejection. It's not abandonment. It is a sacred space where the soul repairs what the world has damaged. When you allow yourself to step back from roles, labels, and the need to be understood, you begin to see who you really are without the filters. You realize how much of your identity was shaped by the gaze of others. And only when that gaze fades do you get the chance to meet yourself again, not as a brand, not as someone's partner, not as a title, but as a living, breathing soul with depth, desire, and divinity. In modern life, most people are addicted to distraction. They scroll through highlights, respond out of habit, speak without listening, and live without reflecting. They confuse activity with purpose, but being constantly available to everyone else leaves you unavailable to yourself. The more you give your time, energy, and presence away without replenishment, the more disconnected you become from your own spirit. Sacred isolation interrupts this cycle. It pauses the performance. It tells you, "Come home." There was once a man who worked in finance. Every day was packed calls, meetings, deadlines, dinner obligations. He was admired, respected, envied. But inside, he felt hollow. After a health scare, he took a short retreat. No phones, no schedule, just stillness. The first days were filled with anxiety and phantom buzzes from a phone that wasn't even there. But gradually, his mind softened. He started journaling. He remembered the dreams he once had, but buried under obligations. He cried for the first time in years, not because he was broken, but because he was finally real. Carl Jung said, "Loneliness does not come from being alone. but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. In sacred solitude, you don't lose connection. You discover true connection, not the one based on texts, likes, or surface-level talks, but the connection with your inner truth. It teaches you to stop begging for clarity from outside sources and start trusting the whispers within. And in that trust, you begin to embody your own energy again. The life force that was being drained by constant external demands slowly returns. Your boundaries become clearer. Your vision is sharper. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer explain, you exist. Sacred isolation reveals the most profound spiritual wisdom, that you are already complete within yourself. The noise outside is just that noise. It's in the stillness that the soul speaks. And when it does, you remember that the most powerful version of you was never the one that tried to please the world. It was the one who dared to face the silence and found peace in it. If this message speaks to your soul, comment below. I am ready to meet my true self. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a moment of spiritual wisdom on your path to wholeness. 7. Reclaiming your energy is the beginning of real freedom. When you stop settling for less than you deserve, a quiet revolution begins inside you. No more forcing smiles. No more tolerating half-hearted conversations or staying in rooms that stifle your spirit. You begin to see how much of your energy was being siphoned away by situations and people that were never aligned with your truth. The moment you say, enough, you don't just reclaim time, you reclaim clarity, direction, and your sacred power. Settling is not peaceful. It is a slow leak of your life force disguised as compromise. You also stop over-explaining. You no longer exhaust yourself trying to be understood by those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You realize that true respect doesn't demand justification. When you stop explaining, you step into a quiet authority. You no longer shapeshift to fit someone's comfort zone. You walk away without giving a speech. You choose silence over performing. And in that silence, your energy recalibrates. You're no longer trying to prove you're enough. You simply are. And then, you withdraw your energy from what drains you. This is deeper than distancing from toxic people. It's about becoming conscious of what you consume, what you scroll through, what conversations you engage in, and even the thoughts you entertain. Attention is power, and wherever it goes, your energy flows. When you stop giving your light to chaos, it starts to burn brighter for your own growth. Your soul feels the difference when you shift from reaction to intention. Boundaries become sacred in this process. They're no longer something you explain or defend. They are declarations of self-respect. You begin saying no without a paragraph of apology, and yes without fear of judgment. Your boundaries are not punishments. They are protection. They don't isolate you. They liberate you. They carve out space for your peace, your healing, your realignment. And with every boundary upheld, you teach the world how to treat your energy. Silence transforms into your sharpest filter. You start to feel who truly values your presence when your words are no longer offered on demand. Those who relied on your noise to control the dynamic now confront the power of your absence. Silence no longer feels like void. It feels like sovereignty. You're not punishing anyone. You're prioritizing yourself. Carl Jung once said that what you resist not only persists, but will grow in size. By choosing silence, you stop resisting who you are and start letting it unfold naturally. You stop performing, stop proving, stop bending. You stop being available to everyone but yourself. And instead, you start showing up real, raw, whole. Living from your truth doesn't mean you'll be loved by all, but it means you'll be free. You're no longer decorating cages with borrowed identities. You're stepping out, not because you're angry, but because your soul finally said, "This is not where I thrive." This is the true path of spiritual wisdom, not floating above life's chaos, but moving through it with fierce presence. Reclaiming your energy is not a mood. It's a lifestyle, a commitment, a sacred return to self. If this message resonates with your soul, type in the comments, "I reclaim my energy and live in my truth." Thank you for joining us today on Spiritual Wisdom. Remember, your energy is your most sacred currency. Don't let the world spend it for you. Protect it, guard it, reclaim it. Because when you stand in your power, the world begins to shift around you. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming insights on energy, healing, and transformation. Until next time, honor your energy and walk in your truth. 9 keys to make them see you as a luxury. As Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But in a world that constantly asks you to shrink, dim, or explain your worth, becoming a rare soul, one who is seen as a luxury, is a spiritual act of power. In today's video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll explore 9 transformative keys that will help you shift from being someone's option to becoming a presence they deeply revere. These principles are not just theories. They are practices you can live with daily for personal growth, confidence, and lasting happiness. Which of these keys speaks to your soul the most? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join our growing spiritual community. Key 1. Claim your archetype. You are not a role. You are an energy. Beneath the surface of your name, your job, your social identity, there is something ancient and untouchable, your archetype. This is the root of luxury. Not something you wear or buy, but something you remember. It is the moment you stop trying to impress and begin to embody. Not everyone will understand it, but everyone will feel it. There are 4 core archetypes in spiritual wisdom, each representing a deep structure of the soul: the lover, the warrior, the magician, and the sovereign. These are not roles to play, but frequencies to embody. The lover is not desperate for attention. They are intimate with life itself, glowing with joy, sensuality, and deep presence. The warrior doesn't fight to prove, they protect what matters, rooted in clarity, discipline, and unshakable strength. The magician doesn't manipulate reality, they reveal it. Through insight, vision, and symbolic power, they bend perception and reveal hidden truth. And the sovereign? They don't lead by control. They lead by energy grounded, regal, at peace with their own divinity. To be seen as a luxury, you must stop being what the world expects and become what your soul remembers. You must ask, who am I when no one is watching? That version of you, stripped of performance and pleasing, is the truest and rarest thing you'll ever wear. It is spiritual wisdom in motion. It is how power becomes effortless. It's not about being louder. It's about being rooted. People don't remember noise. They remember their presence. When you walk into a room owning your archetype, you don't need to announce yourself. You don't need validation. The energy speaks before you do. Because when you embody what is real, you no longer chase moments, you become the moment. The world teaches performance, but luxury is never performative. A diamond does not compete. It simply exists. Your archetype is your inner diamond. And when you stop hiding it, when you allow it to breathe, to speak, to move through your gestures, your silence, your boundaries, then you stop being an option in someone's life and start becoming a gravitational field. This is the power of claiming your archetype. It's not about effort, it's about alignment. You don't strive for value, you radiate it. You don't seek approval, you become the standard. Because people don't chase what is abundant. They are magnetized to what is rare, real, and rooted. And nothing is more rare than a soul who remembers itself. Have you discovered your true archetype? Share it in the comments below. Are you a lover, a warrior, a magician, or a sovereign? And if you're still uncovering who you are beneath the surface, comment, "I'm ready to remember," so we can walk this path of self-discovery together. Key 2. Embody inner reverence. Reverence begins where self-abandonment ends. When you stop outsourcing your worth to others and begin to honor the sacredness of your own soul, something powerful shifts. You no longer operate from a place of lack, desperation, or noise. Instead, your energy becomes quiet, calm, and undeniable. People feel it, not because you force them to, but because your presence no longer asks for permission. It simply is. To be revered by others, you must first revere yourself. That means releasing the need for constant validation. You no longer chase attention like a beggar at a banquet. You sit at your own table, knowing your value is not up for debate. The world teaches you to perform for approval, but spiritual awakening teaches you to remember who you were before the world taught you to forget. Reverence is not about arrogance. It is about remembering. Remembering your essence, your worth, your quiet power. When you anchor into your truth, you create a gravitational field. You don't need to speak louder. You need to speak less. You need to feel more. You need to stop reaching out and begin reaching inward. People respect what is rooted. People honor what is still. And the more you honor yourself, the more others will feel that silent command in your presence. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. You are here to embody it. And embodiment doesn't require explanation. It doesn't need applause. It simply moves through life like a steady flame, untouched by the wind, unwavering in its glow. When your energy speaks with clarity, your words become unnecessary. Luxury is not about being better than others. It's about being so deeply connected to yourself that you refuse to settle for anything misaligned. You become selective, not from ego, but from self-respect. And that selection radiates as power. When you hold yourself as sacred, others must rise to meet you or fall away. That is the natural filtering system of reverence. People will only revere you to the degree that you no longer betray yourself for their comfort. If you keep shape-shifting to fit into their stories, you erase your own. But when you decide that your energy is no longer available for disrespect, disconnection, or dissonance, you teach the world how to treat you without saying a word. Reverence is a frequency. It cannot be faked. It is cultivated in solitude, in silence, in the moments when you choose self-trust over external noise. It grows every time you walk away from what drains you and walk toward what awakens you. And the more you live in alignment with your spirit, the more undeniable your value becomes, not as a mask, but as a mirror of truth. Do you feel the truth of this message? If you do, declare it in the comments. I honor my soul. I walk in sacred reverence. And if this touches your spirit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of spiritual awakening. Key 3. Practice psychological distance. Constant availability kills value. When you're always reachable, always replying, always there, your presence becomes predictable. But predictability is the enemy of desire. People begin to assume you'll always show up, always give, always say yes, and in doing so, they stop appreciating the energy it costs you. Mystery fades. Magnetism dissolves. The sacred becomes common. This is why practicing psychological distance is not a manipulation tactic. It's self-respect in action. Strategic space invites others to rise to your frequency instead of pulling you down into theirs. When you guard your energy and become intentional about your presence, you shift from being emotionally cheap to emotionally expensive. This doesn't mean becoming cold or unavailable. It means allowing your absence to speak as powerfully as your presence. In a world that glorifies hustle, constant engagement, and non-stop accessibility, choosing silence becomes a revolutionary act. It creates contrast, and contrast creates value. Carl Jung emphasized that true transformation happens through tension, the space between polarities, not their fusion. When you allow space in your relationships, in your conversations, even in your digital life, you're not breaking connections. You're creating room for something deeper to emerge. The bond strengthens not through constant contact, but through intentional presence. You stop chasing validation and start embodying worth. Look around. The rarest things in life are the most treasured. Luxury doesn't beg for attention. It commands it through elegance, restraint, and scarcity. Why should your energy be any different? When you respond from overflow, not obligation, your words carry weight. When you show up with presence instead of pressure, people feel the difference. You become the calm in a noisy world, the stillness people didn't know they craved. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't need to justify your space. Your life is not a performance. You're not here to be constantly consumed. You're here to live fully, deeply, intentionally. And that requires solitude. That requires knowing when to pull back so your energy can regenerate and re-enter from a place of wholeness. Jung's idea of individuation isn't just about self-knowledge. It's about self-honoring. And that begins with choosing yourself, even when others expect access. If someone truly values you, they won't be threatened by your boundaries. They'll respect the container you create. And if they don't, that's your clarity. Not everyone deserves your full access. Let your presence be a privilege, not a default setting. Because when you become emotionally expensive, you become unforgettable. Not because you're elusive, but because you finally remembered your own worth. If you're ready to become emotionally expensive and protect your energy with intention, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's honor the power of psychological distance together. Key 4. Cultivate emotional wealth. Luxury is not a price tag. It's an energy. In the realm of spiritual wisdom, luxury is the silent aura of someone who has healed deeply, who no longer needs validation to feel valuable. Its presence pure, grounded, magnetic. Emotional wealth is not measured in words or achievements, but in how others feel in your presence. A person who cultivates emotional depth becomes unforgettable. not because of what they say or do, but because of the peace and power they carry within. Think of Ray, a quiet barber with a small, ordinary shop. He didn't offer anything flashy, yet people came from across town just to sit in his chair. They didn't come for the haircut, they came for him. Ray had a presence that soothed you. He remembered your name, your child's birthday, your last conversation. When he spoke, he didn't fill silence. He honored it. He made people feel human again in a world that often forgets how to. That's emotional wealth. That's the frequency of luxury. This kind of wealth can't be learned through performance. It is cultivated in the quiet spaces of your life when you sit with your own emotions, when you face your shadows, when you become intimate with your own wounds and stop asking others to heal them for you. Emotional richness means you bring wholeness to the table, not hidden hunger. You don't take the energy, you offer it. You don't chase attention, you command it by being fully, unapologetically anchored in yourself. Luxury, then, is not external. It's the feeling of being around someone who is deeply present, who listens with their soul, who doesn't rush to fix or impress, but simply is. People remember those who make them feel safe, seen, and calm, not those who shout the loudest. The more you tend to your emotional garden, watering your intuition, pruning your pain, cultivating your inner stillness, the more rare your energy becomes. And what is rare is sacred. What is sacred is luxury. This is not about trying to be someone. It's about becoming so emotionally rich that your presence alone is a gift. In that space, you don't have to prove your worth. It is felt. This is the essence economy, where your energy speaks louder than anything you say. You become the rare air others crave, not because you try, but because you are. Let emotional wealth be your signature fragrance, the silent power that turns a moment into a memory, a glance into an anchor, a conversation into communion. That is what makes you unforgettable. That is what makes you luxury. If you're ready to embody emotional richness and let your energy speak louder than words, comment below. I am the source of emotional wealth. Key 5. Refine your language. Refining your language is one of the most powerful yet underestimated signs of a true spiritual awakening. The way you speak either affirms your inner sovereignty or exposes hidden insecurity. Every word you speak carries energy, and that energy is either expanding your aura or dimming your light. You don't just communicate with words, you broadcast frequency. When you begin to awaken spiritually, you become conscious not only of what you say, but of how your voice enters the room before you do. Speak with clarity. Cut through the fog of passivity and over-explaining. Eliminate the constant, I'm sorry, just, maybe, and I think. These habitual phrases may seem polite, but they signal self-doubt to your subconscious and to others. Clear language does not mean cold or harsh. It means confident, direct, and clean. It tells the world, I know what I mean, and I trust you'll understand. That level of clarity is rare, and therefore luxurious. Speak with intention. Every word should be rooted in inner alignment. Don't speak to impress, speak to express. People often waste energy trying to manage perception, but true power doesn't perform. It reveals. When your words carry the weight of truth, they ripple beyond the surface and create deep, lasting impact. You don't need to raise your volume when your message is grounded in authenticity. Speak with sovereignty. That means owning your space vocally, energetically, and spiritually. A sovereign voice doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't shrink or inflate to please the room. It simply exists as a steady, magnetic force. You don't have to talk over people or dominate a conversation to command attention. A calm, self-assured voice can be more powerful than thunder. Why? Because presence doesn't scream. It radiates. This is spiritual wisdom. When your language evolves, your energy transforms. You no longer chase validation through words. You no longer explain your value. You embody it. Think of the elegance of high-end brands. They don't beg. They don't over-advertise. They use few words, but the right ones, and the world leans in. Apply that same principle to your identity. You are the message. Your voice is the vessel. Let your language become sacred. Drop the filler phrases that dilute your truth. Practice speaking with clean power rooted, soft, unwavering. This is not about being perfect. It's about being aligned. Your voice should feel like a reflection of your essence, not a performance to gain approval. As your speech shifts, so does your presence. And that presence is what turns you from an option into a luxury. That's the power of refined language. It speaks before you do. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on how to speak with power, clarity, and intention, because your words shape your reality. Key 6. Align your aesthetic with your soul. People don't just hear you, they see you. Long before words are spoken, your presence is already speaking through symbols. Carl Jung taught us that the unconscious responds to archetypes and signs. And in the modern world, those signs take the shape of your clothing, your home, your online presence, your body language. You are never not speaking. The way you hold yourself, the way you decorate your space, the way you curate your digital reflection. These are all unspoken affirmations of who you believe you are. The question is, do they reflect your soul or just your surface? There's a distinct energy in someone whose aesthetic is rooted in their spiritual core. It's not about trends or popularity. It's not about designer brands or polished perfection. It's about coherence. When your outer expression mirrors your inner truth, the message is clear. I am not ordinary. That clarity is power. That integrity is rare. And rarity, in a world addicted to mass duplication, is what makes something truly feel like luxury. Luxury is not style. It's symbolic alignment. When your soul and your surroundings are in harmony, you no longer need to chase attention. You attract it without effort. A woman who wears colors that echo her depth. A man whose environment honors simplicity and soul. A person who moves with deliberate ease that communicates something silent but unforgettable. Their presence speaks of meaning, of reverence, of intentional self-respect. They don't shout, they emanate. Many people misunderstand luxury as something external price tags, designer logos, aesthetics borrowed from someone else's imagination. But spiritual wisdom reveals a deeper truth. The most luxurious people are not the loudest. They are the most aligned. Their homes feel like sanctuaries, not showrooms. Their style feels like expression, not performance. Their posture feels grounded, not tense. This subtle elegance creates a magnetic field that others feel even if they can't explain why. Alignment creates resonance. When your aesthetic honors your essence, others feel safe, intrigued, even inspired in your presence. Think of how certain rooms make you feel instantly calm. Think of the way a person's voice or eyes can make you feel seen. That's not a coincidence. That's coherence. That's energy working in harmony with identity. It's not a costume. It's a mirror of the soul. To live in symbolic truth is to carry a sacred kind of confidence. You don't need to seek approval when everything around you affirms your value. When you stop trying to impress and start choosing what reflects your essence, you become unforgettable. Your aesthetic becomes a visual meditation and an extension of your inner clarity. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Let your style, space, and silence awaken others. In a world full of noise, aesthetic alignment is a quiet revolution. You're not here to blend in. You're here to be a living symbol of what's rare, real, and rooted. Leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video that aligns your energy with your essence. Comment below, "I embody soulful luxury," if you're ready to let your outer world reflect your inner truth. Key 7. Create signature energy. Your energy should feel like a sanctuary, quiet, grounded, and unforgettable. It isn't about being loud or flashy. It's about being so rooted in who you are that people feel you before they understand you. This is the essence of spiritual wisdom: to radiate truth without explanation. When your energy is centered, calm, and intentional, others pause not because you asked them to, but because your frequency speaks louder than your voice ever could. You stop being a presence they pass by, and you become an experience they remember. To create this kind of signature energy, you must carry yourself like a temple, not a product. You don't market your soul. You embody it. In a world constantly selling, chasing, and performing, you move differently. You don't overexpose yourself. You don't fight for visibility. You become visible by being deeply aligned. There's sacred power in restraint, in stillness, in being selective with your energy. People begin to recognize the difference between noise and resonance. You don't need to impress. You need to be in integrity. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." Signature energy is born from that awakening. It's crafted in silence, in presence, in the decision to honor yourself. When you are consistent in your inner life, when your values, your words, and your actions reflect one another, you emit a rare kind of clarity. And clarity is a luxury in a world that worships confusion. You don't attract through performance. You attract through coherence, through calm, through the quiet dignity of someone who no longer begs to be seen. This is not charisma. This is soul alignment, and it's magnetic. Think of the person who enters a space and shifts the entire atmosphere without saying a word. It's not what they do, it's who they are. Their energy speaks. Their presence holds. That's the level of intentionality you must cultivate. Don't chase attention. Command presence by embodying something deeper. Something people can feel but can't quite explain. Something timeless. To get there, you must protect your peace like it's sacred. You must choose your rituals, your words, your environment, and your relationships with care. You must move with focus, listen with depth, speak with purpose, live with grace. When your life becomes an extension of your values, your energy becomes unforgettable. You are no longer a distraction. You are a destination. This is spiritual wisdom, in action, not in theory. You don't have to announce your worth. You refine it. You embody it. You let others recognize it in their own time. And when they do, they will not forget it. Because luxury isn't always seen. Sometimes it's simply felt. If this message resonates with your spirit, declare it in the comments. I carry a signature energy that speaks before I do. And if you felt seen by this video, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss content that realigns you with your presence and power. Key 8. Embody stillness as power. In a world overflowing with noise, stillness becomes its own language of power. When you embody calmness in your energy, you're no longer chasing to be seen. You're commanding presence without effort. True influence doesn't scream. It whispers with certainty. You don't need to prove anything. A quiet, grounded soul naturally radiates strength and dignity. In spiritual awakening, this stillness is not weakness. It's your mastery of self. It tells the world, I know who I am, and I don't need to announce it. Stillness sharpens perception. While others react, you respond. While the world rushes to speak, you choose your words with care, and that choice makes every word land with deeper weight. Your calm becomes a mirror in which others can see their own chaos. That's why a composed presence often disarms even the most dominant energy in the room. Carl Jung taught us that what we resist persists, and in stillness, resistance falls away. You begin to meet your unconscious. You face your truth, and you integrate the parts of you that once screamed for attention. There is sacred power in restraint. Not every emotion needs to be broadcast. Not every thought needs to be voiced. When you speak, let your words rise from your soul, not your ego. Let your pauses carry more weight than someone else's performance. That is spiritual wisdom. When you stop needing to convince, you begin to command. Not through force, but through frequency. Your vibe becomes the room's anchor. Your silence, the gravity others orbit around. People remember how you made them feel, and there's nothing more unforgettable than the quiet confidence of someone who no longer performs. Stillness is your clarity made visible. It is a presence that doesn't beg for attention because it already has alignment. You become luxurious not because you're hard to reach, but because you are rooted, grounded, rare. A calm soul in a frantic world becomes a lighthouse, silent, steady, but guiding everything around it. That's why stillness is not absence. It's presence at its most refined. When you stop rushing to be seen, you become impossible to ignore. And in that space, people don't just see you, they feel you. Are you ready to embrace the quiet power within you? If so, comment below. I embody stillness to affirm your commitment to calm, presence, and true inner strength. Key 9. Curate a life of sacred intention. Treat your life as a gallery of your soul, where everything you allow into your space, your words, your gestures, your silence, your rituals becomes a reflection of your inner world. Every detail is a message, and every message is a mirror. This is not about curating aesthetics for the world to admire, but about honoring the sacred relationship you have with your own essence. When Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes," he was pointing to the path of true refinement, not one of performance, but of presence. Luxury, in its highest form, is not loud. It does not seek attention. It moves with quiet certainty, with reverence for time, space, and energy. It exists in the way you pour your tea, how you light a candle at the end of the day, the softness in your tone, the stillness in your gaze. When you infuse your life with deep intention, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A simple word can carry weight. A pause in a conversation can speak volumes. You no longer live to impress. You live to express your truth in subtle, sovereign ways. I remember watching a woman once in a small art cafe. She sat alone, reading poetry with a calm so magnetic it hushed the noise around her. She wasn't dressed extravagantly. She didn't speak much, but everything about her radiated sacred intention, from the way she held her cup to the way she turned each page. People around her took notice, not because she asked to be seen, but because her presence was curated with care. That is what Carl Jung would call the power of inner symbolism made visible. When you begin to live this way, you align yourself with the deeper language of the soul. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks in symbols. So, when your external world becomes a reflection of your inner clarity, others don't just see you, they feel you. You become a living archetype of meaning. Your space becomes a sanctuary, your voice a ritual, your choices a compass. You stop explaining yourself and start embodying yourself. Sacred intention teaches people how to treat you without you needing to say a word. It draws respectful energy and filters out noise. It builds a boundary not made of walls, but of vibration. This is what happens when spiritual awakening meets psychological maturity. You realize that power is not in doing more, it's in doing less with more meaning. Not in acquiring things, but in giving everything in your life purpose and soul. Luxury, then, is not what you wear, but how you carry your values. It's not found in price tags, but in presence. And when your life becomes a quiet celebration of intentional living, you become rare. Not because you are trying to be, but because in a world addicted to noise, silence becomes gold. To affirm your devotion to living with sacred intention, declare it boldly in the comments. My life is a sacred offering. Let this be your vow to move with purpose, to speak with meaning, and to live as a quiet embodiment of true inner luxury. And remember, true luxury begins within. When you honor your worth, the world reflects it back. These 9 keys are not just ideas. They are invitations to rise, to realign, and to be revered. If this message has sparked something in you, let it guide your next step toward becoming the version of yourself that doesn't chase attention, but commands presence. If you found value in today's video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Tap the notification bell so you never miss another insight that could shift your life forever. Until next time, walk with intention. And remember, you were never meant to be ordinary.